Let's get this meeting started. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, the day before tax day, 2026 at 7 p.m. We'll call this town council work session to order. First item on the agenda, pledge of allegiance. Alex, it's your swim class. You want to lead us tonight?
I sure can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Start off with roll call. Start to my left. Doug DeSmith. Here. Kathy Burke.
Here.
Greg Kaholsky.
Here.
Jeff Beachy is here. As we know, Dean Renfro is not here. Clerk Treasurer Kathy Antonelli.
Present.
Town Manager Mike Yoder.
Here.
Assistant Fire Chief Jimmy Haynes.
Hello.
Assistant Marshal Dustin Lundgren. Chief Deputy. Chief Deputy Dustin Lundgren. That's right. That's right. And Legal Counsel Alex Bowman here. Good evening, all. Okay, everybody had a chance to review the agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, any additions, corrections, or changes needed?
No.
Nope.
Okay, if not, the agenda will stand as published. We will jump right into reports. Mike, what do you have for us tonight?
First up is our annual TIF management report. We have Kyle from Baker Tilly here to present tonight.
Okay. Good evening, Kyle.
Good evening. Can you guys think the screen is just coming up right now?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me this evening. I'm Kyle Grossman with Baker Tilly, municipal advisor to the town and the redevelopment commission. And I'm here to report on 2025 activity of redevelopment commission funds. I will be back in the summer and hopefully I can come in person to that meeting, and that'll be a meeting where we look forward, project the tip out with some cash flows and things like that. This is really just looking historical on 2025 activity. And I'll go ahead and jump right in. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to stop me as I'm going. And first I would like to say thank you to Kathy, Mike, and Joe for providing the information so timely to allow us to do this report and for having the super clean AFR to put this together. So thank you there. But this is the RDC reporting requirements. This requirement that we're hitting today is the TIF management report that's due April 15th online in Gateway. Kathy's all set to submit it tomorrow. It needs to be provided to the council and presented to the council. That's why we're doing this today. There's some other reporting requirements that you'll see on here just as a reminder of things that we do assist with. And that summer meeting where we look forward is this RDC annual presentation, and we'll invite the overlapping tax units. We do have just one refresher slide on TIF mechanics. So as you guys know, when a TIF area is created, the base assessed value, or this gray box, is continued to be passed through the overlapping tax units, and really the RDC only captures the increases from the time the area is created. There are annual adjustments via the TIF base neutralization process, where there's a factor calculated and the base AV is adjusted for trending, just to make sure that the redevelopment commission is just capturing any increases from new construction or abatements rolling off and things like that. That blue triangle, the incremental AV times the tax rate after factoring in circuit breaker, is your TIF dollars that can be spent on projects and in serving or benefiting your consolidated area or your other EDAs, as long as the projects are in the economic development plan. This is really just delaying the passive assessed value. A lot of the areas for the town have expirations now, and when those areas expire, you would see assessed value go up. But because your budget can really only grow by the maximum levy growth portion, or about 4%, you would see tax rate pressure downward when some of these areas expire, which is this red box. We do have a slide on slide 4 of the purposes of TIF, and just trying to focus on using it for incentives or infrastructure needed to induce private investment, encourage economic growth in target areas, and redevelop land areas. And then there's a note at the bottom that a lot of times, the businesses in the TIF area, they may not know they're in the TIF area just because they pay their property taxes the same way as they would if they weren't. Now we'll get into the meat of the presentation. So these were the redevelopment commission members, which is really just you guys, in 2025. And then on slide 6, looking at the TIF allocation area, this will just give you a summary of all the areas and the establishment date and expiration dates. The Valmont, Rail Park, and AWT allocation areas are the newer areas, don't have expirations, but you can see the other areas do.
Why is
And then
that?
on slide 7, go ahead.
Why don't they have expiration dates?
So at some point in legislation several years ago, they changed the rules on expiration dates to where it's 25 years from a time bond payable from that specific TIF area is issued. That's what that starts the 25-year clock.
Mhm.
But since Valmont, Rail Park, I believe Valmont has abatements, but since there's no bonds associated with those areas, the TIF clock hasn't started.
Okay,
But some of the early areas, like south and north, the TIF expiration rules were different back when those were created. So you'll notice that the 30-year life, but depending on when an area was created, there's different rules on the expiration. On slide 7, this is the finances. So you'll see the total revenue and expenditures by each of the TIF areas. I will note that some of the revenues shown in Bristol East represent the give backs fund or the abatement fees collected from the various allocation areas and abatements. You'll see a further breakdown of all of the expenditures by State Board of Accounts categories, just as Kathy had to do for the AFR. You'll see, $950,000 professional services. I guess I'll point out that a lot of that includes the fire contracts, which is why that number is higher. And you can see, principal and interest, land of improvements other than buildings, infrastructure, and just a breakdown by those codes. And then on slide 8, you'll see the fund balances of all of the allocation funds as of the end of the year. So each allocation fund, and there's a couple of bond funds on here as well, the General Revenue Bond Fund and the CF Bond Fund. Those are just kind of pass-through funds to make the bond payments on those bonds. And then there's a summary of the debt payments at the bottom in 2025. So you guys are very close. Well, I guess by now you've paid off the interlocal agreement for road funding. But at the end of the year, there was around 80,000 remaining. And the 2021 revenue bonds, there was 245,000 paid last year and about 1.4 million remaining, or close to 1.5. And then you also have the Seahawk bonds, which are just payable from, well, right now, 80% of real property collected in that area and 100% of personal property. There was $1 million paid in 2025, and there's $5,770,000 estimated to be remaining with the final maturity of February 1 of 2033.
Kyle, go back one slide just to affirm. So the Seahawk allocation area that has 811,000, that's available for the town or the redevelopment commission to utilize, correct?
Yes, I can look into it a little closer, but I'm assuming that's what we've kept back and not paid because you're able to keep 20% of real property and only pay 80%. There may be a timing thing here though, where that balance is a little overstated. If you guys paid the trustee early in the year in 2026, this could be overstated. So I don't want to look at it closer. But after you make the payments to the trustee for bond payments, yes, you can use that for other purposes.
It was higher than what I had thought it was, but that may be the reason is the timing.
Yeah, because the payments, I believe, are August 1st and February 1st. So you may have received the money in November and then not paid it until January.
Thank you.
don't get the wheels turning just.
Well, I just want to make sure I haven't spent money that we don't have. That's my biggest concern.
Nice and
Yeah.
line.
I think we're all concerned about it.
Yeah.
And then if you guys did have a housing tip allocation area, we would have to report the number of houses completed in the built and constructed in the previous year and the average sale price of the home. So we just put on here that it's not applicable because there's no housing tip allocation area, but it is something that would be required if you had an area. I will say, and just kind of a note to you guys, in the legislation that just finished up this spring, they did make it to where the tip expiration date for a housing tip area can be 25 years now instead of 20 years, which is the same as the traditional tip area and all of your guys' tip areas. And when I say 25 years, I mean 25 years from the issuance of debt. So they did extend that, just to let you guys know. And then there's just a note here about the interlocal agreement that actually was just paid off. So for next year, we can probably just go ahead and remove this note of that, 400,000 is due each year, 200,000 semi-annually.
It'd be nice to get rid of that debt.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
Just
And
in time-
then
just in
this
time
is
to finish the rest of the
If you
road.
guys have any questions afterward, when you're able to, look at this closer, don't hesitate to reach out to Heidi or myself. We're always available to assist questions, so. That's all I have.
One quick question. Everybody's paying their property tax bills today and this next couple weeks. So I've noticed my property tax bill on my home is down. Many people's bills are down. So we expected a reduction in property tax revenue. My sense is we are not going to experience much reduction in our TIF increment because most of the property tax reductions were on residential. Am I correct?
Correct, unless, unless there's some apartments, in the tip, which I know you guys are mostly industrial, so I wouldn't expect the tip. The tip would be more affected by any tax rate decreases than it would the two deductions from SCA one. Because you're right, I mean, those deductions are on homes and any 2% survey property would be like apartments or farmland, which you wouldn't see a lot of that in the tip area, I wouldn't think. So yes, you're correct.
I'm looking forward to our June and July check.
Yes, we'll analyze, we'll get data from the county on a parcel by parcel level,
Okay.
and that will allow us to really dig in deeper and analyze moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
My property
Thank you.
tax bill went down almost 300.
All right, anybody have questions for Kyle?
No.
All right, if not, Kyle, thank you, appreciate the presentation. And have a good evening.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda, Angela, good evening.
Good evening, Angela Smith from JPR with offices at 325 South Lafayette. I think I need to move to Bristol because my property tax did not go down. So, okay. So before you this evening is the development standard overlay that we've been talking about for quite some time. There haven't been any significant changes since I was before you the last time, except for the fact that we finally managed to negotiate everything out with the county and get through the plan commission. So there were some little things in terms of language that they wanted us to change, that didn't impact any of the standards. A couple of the things that we did that they had pushed back on, for instance, they didn't like the lighting standards. We changed that to have it be reviewed by the town engineer so that it was off of their plate, because that's what they were comfortable with. But it still allowed the town to implement the lighting standards and the sign standards that they wanted. So just to recap again, we followed the overall layout of the Elkhart County development ordinance as they have it written. And so these are the various sections of the overlay that are before you. I'm gonna go on to the next slide. With the goals of making sure that we have something specific to the character of Bristol. A lot of the standards in the county, as you know, are pretty lax and don't really fit like your downtown, for instance. So we wanted to make sure that somebody could build something downtown like it looks now and not something super suburban in the middle of your downtown. The districts, we have 3. There's the downtown core, the transition district, and then the South Division Corridor District. So again, the focus is mainly on State Road 15 and then the downtown. There is an overall town limit district that does allow for a couple items in there, such as no barbed wire fencing in the front yard, that will kind of allow for a wider approach to Bristol to help beautify things. Also the lighting standards, make sure that all of Bristol has the dark sky lighting that's so important to the residents.
Okay.
You can keep going until you get to the picture of, not that, keep going. There's a industrial building that looks nice, not the ones that we're getting rid of. So these were dealing with the parking minimums downtown and limiting the parking in the back. I'm gonna keep scrolling down, Mike.
Oh, actually Jeff is controlling those.
I'm rolling.
Sorry. Looking at- So if you'd like to keep scrolling.
Sure.
Keep going. Most of this is repeat, but if you want to keep going, we'll get to the image of what we're trying to aim for in Bristol. That image right there. So this is a good image that helps illustrate what the standards would dictate along State Road 15. So you have the building a little bit closer to the street so that we have minimal parking in the front. The exclusion of allowing trailers and outdoor storage in the front yard as it is now. Some screening for the loading and any storage that might be in there, and then some streetscape trees and some landscaping for the parking lot. So this is really a good image of the kind of goal of what we're looking to do here along 15 to help beautify the entrance into the town. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have on this. It did come from the Plan Commission with a unanimous favorable recommendation.
Good.
Actually, I do have one. So with the overlay, is there anything, any wording in there that prohibit us from being more strict than what's currently here? I'm thinking the annexed area. Can we go more strict in that in particular because of it's backing up to non-town residents?
So there's nothing in here that would prohibit you from putting in extra regulations and the PUD or rezoning that could come through. Anytime you have a rezoning, because as of right now, that's not zoned for anything other than agriculture. So anytime you have a rezoning, you have the ability to put additional standards on it through a written commitment or it's a PUD through the PUD standards. So there's nothing in here that would prohibit that at all. In fact, when we go through, and we'll be working with the county, I've already talked to May about the fact that they plan on updating their changes every year to 2 years. We'll have to update and probably put some language in the area to make sure that that area is included in this map. I will check with the county attorney, I think, because this has not been approved by the commissioners yet, it's still be added. So we can make a note in your motion, for instance, if you wanted to approve it, subject to adding the additional area recently annexed into the town of Bristol, that'd probably be a good motion.
Thank you.
Does that work out?
Yeah, I was just looking at it there, that particular area is a curiosity with the ordinance, but yeah, I think that would be the appropriate way to do it.
The ordinance doesn't just refer to any town within the town, any area within the town limits. It designates the,
It does, but there's a map reference in there, so I want it to be clear. And then
For the
we'll change
zones?
that map. Sorry,
For the zones,
yes.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we have that map updated.
I think before when we have done separate areas, like a factory coming in or whatever, we have added some stipulations to the basic of the, the basis of this,
That's pretty,
depending on where the location was, what was the need and that type of thing.
yeah, that's pretty common, and I believe the annexation area will most likely come in as PUD, and that will allow for a lot of restrictions to be on there if they aren't already written into.
I have a question. So I know this is more for new construction standards, but if one of our existing businesses remodel, add on, would those standards come into play with those changes?
So for the most part, the county's non-conforming use standards would apply. So it wouldn't apply to any remodels. It would apply to, for instance, the fence regulations would apply to a new fence being installed or a replacement fence. We did put some language in there. really what we tightened between the counties and the overlay is related to signage. So that, non-conforming signs could be brought into conformance when they're replaced. The county kind of has it's close enough, it's good, and I don't think that's really what the town would want.
Agreed.
So that was one of the non-conforming section was one of the sections I kind of went back and forth with the county on for a while, and they finally felt since it has to be signed off by the town anyway, they were okay with the way it was.
Because as I look at this map, we don't have the new annexed area.
Right, because this was filed before the
Yeah.
annexation started. We filed this back in like December with the
Yeah.
planning commission. It's just
Yep.
taking a really long time.
Yep.
So we'll get that updated. If
Okay.
the motion's made that way, I think that'll be enough for us to do that.
Okay,
The new state law does not require this to go back to the planning commission if you guys add that, so.
okay. Good.
Which was a change last year.
I like the look of this too. Cleans
I
up
was
the,
noticing, the northern section of Thor, there's very much reflects this as well.
yes,
Where they have everything kind of behind the screen fence and all of that, so that's reflective also of what we're going with.
Yeah.
The
Nice.
new Great Lakes office, I just drove by that this evening, that has a similar, very
Yeah.
clean, modern look.
yeah, I drove by that tonight too. That looks really nice.
And again, this won't apply to anything existing, so it'll take some time for those things to change, but over time that will.
Yeah.
There was an interesting situation with timbering. And I'm not sure how this happened at the county level, but there are standards within that development that Leatherman put in with his development. The side facing 120 meets those standards. The side facing Stonemont does not. Now, it's not ugly, but it's just plain steel on the side facing Stonemont. And so Pete said, well, it's up to the town. He wanted to change that side of the building with a stone veneer or something. Problem is the building is ordered, it's about to be delivered. And so I said, well, let's see what we can do with landscaping on that side to dress that up.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to have to reorder part of their building.
So
It's
what's
not
the,
ugly.
which is gonna be the front of the building?
Actually, the 120 side, so they'll pull in and some of the parking will be on the 120 side. It's the way the site plan. is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
So
probably-
I asked the county, I said, why didn't the developer know about? Well, I think they just thought 120 was the front. They didn't think about Stonemont being up front as well.
Yeah,
But that's an entrance to that area.
Corner lot.
Yeah, it's a corner lot.
yeah,
So I think maybe this will help as well.
okay.
Is that gonna be a 120 address or a Stonemont address?
It's a Stonemont address, that's the thing. Yeah,
MJB has a Stonemont address.
yeah.
Yeah, but you can't get on MJB from 120. No.
I
Right.
know,
Into Tiburon from 120.
Yeah.
That's gonna,
No, you cannot.
You would not be able to.
No, it's just that their facade faces 120, but their entrance is off of Stonemont.
Stonemont.
so when they call 911. They call 911, is it gonna be a 120 address?
Stonemont.
There we go.
Stonemont.
Stonemont.
Yeah. It was just a matter of the orientation of the building and, anyways, interesting, right?
These standards don't go so far as to have that, so that's an example of one of those additional more restrictive standards that you can put on. This is also, I firmly believe that zoning is a living, breathing document and should be revisited on a very regular basis.
Yeah.
So as you start to implement these, as things come in, it works, it doesn't work, we can change it. It's not that hard to change, but we have to start somewhere, so.
Actually, I do have one more. So the dark sky that it's gonna be pushed back on the town engineer, who is gonna be handling that?
That's, JPR is our town engineer.
So they'll be the ones that'll be responsible for,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's pretty typical for development, especially in industrial development, to submit a photometric plan. It's just making sure that their photometrics meet the standards. The standards that are in there for dark sky aren't that complicated. It's nothing that someone's gonna really walk at if they've done development anywhere. So it's something that we think is reasonable, but will make a big impact on the community.
Anything else? Okay. Procedurally,
Well, so I had a kind of a question, a question to pose as it pertains to that annexed property in particular.
Okay.
The remonstrance period on that annexation ordinance ends the 24th, Monday following, so
Okay.
about 10 days time. The question I have is under section 2 here, when we talk about agricultural uses and properties that are zoned A1 at the time of the adoption of this ordinance are allowed to continue. However, no new A1 would be annexed into the town without a rezoning to an appropriate district. The only concern I think that raises is because that annexation, the annexation hasn't been recorded yet, can't because their remonstrance isn't filed.
Right.
So do we jeopardize that rezoning by adopting this today? And then finalizing the annexation in a week's time?
I would say no, because the general transition rules that are under the 3674 ordinance kind of, and what's under the county development ordinance right now, usually is anything that's been filed is considered the same as if it is approved. So I think because it's already been approved by the town board, it just hasn't had the remonstrance period, it would fall under that as well. So I think we'll be okay.
Okay, I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, it's the
Yeah.
council is the one who's enforcing the rule, so.
That rule's really tricky too. The county lets us keep it in there. I will say that Elkhart County and the towns that the Advisory Plan Commission oversees is unique in many ways. And annexation is one of them. So for instance, if you were to annex into the city of Elkhart, you could do an annexation and rezoning at the same time. And that's really, in my opinion, the appropriate way for it to be done. Because a town may not, or a municipality may not want to annex something if it's not zoned appropriately, or they may not want to zone it if it is annexed, or not annexed, whatever. And right now, there's a lot of confusion in the town members of the Advisory Planning Commission because there isn't that provision at the county seat. And so you really get into this weird, what comes first, the chicken or the egg thing. You are either relying on the county to agree with the zoning prior to annexation, or you are annexing it because you want to control the zoning, but then there's nothing to force the property owner to annex. So their opinion of that was go ahead and leave it in. If the town chooses to enforce it, that's up to the town. They're not going to enforce that rule because they don't have that. I have encouraged a couple towns that they may want to get together and talk about what that looks like and if that's really something that should be amended going forward because it's a weird situation the way it's set up now.
Yeah.
It's very unique. Most municipalities you can do a joint ordinance.
okay.
Interesting.
Well, thank you for that point, because that's the only, I mean, again, the town is the arbiter of the standard there, and certainly the town has already taken the action, the council's already taken the action relative to the annexation. It's effectively just the waiting period, and the way the statute contemplates that is that it's 30 days after the adoption that that ordinance becomes effective or takes effect, is the way that it describes it. So, yeah, you're in this kind of a gray space. It's kind of a gray space, but you're the arbiter of it.
Yeah.
So, that's, if anything, I'd be obliged to at least raise that thought to you, so that you're aware of it. If that suddenly became a sticking point for you, there's still a period of time, that 90-day period from when this was certified to you ends in the middle of May. So you'll meet again after the annexation ordinance becomes effective, to the extent you needed to. But I tend to agree that I think those actions have been taken, and so I think you've got at the very least a colorable defense to the action it takes. So Jeff, to your question procedurally, what you have before you is a text amendment under the zoning statute. The highly recommended procedure would be to hold a public hearing. There's an ordinance that's before you of, recall the ordinance number, 414/2026-10. That is the enabling ordinance for the overlay district. So procedurally, having opening a public hearing, hearing any comments, and then at the closure of that public hearing, because this is a zoning ordinance, it does not require a second reading. It can be adopted on first reading by statute. So it would be right for consideration and adoption.
I'll also have the procedure, we'll be going to the commissioners on Monday. They wanted the town to hear it first. We had much debate about that as well, but we're following their recommendation to get this moving through, so.
Had a conversation with Don, Plan Commission's attorney, this morning as well, discussed that procedure. I think historically, that's kind of the way it's been done. And it's I think you call it a healthy way to do it. We don't anticipate that there'd be any conflict between the action of town council and the commissioners. Although technically, this is not a linear process.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it passes through the town council and then onto the commissioners. It's effectively parallel processes. But we don't anticipate any conflict there. And as Angela said, this received a unanimous favorable recommendation, and the commissioners see that as well.
Good. I know there were some hurdles there, so.
Always. Keeps life interesting.
It,
Job security, right?
Oh, yeah.
there you go.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
sort of.
I'm sorry, I just thought of something. I will note that the page numbers will be added by the county after this is all settled, and we'll figure out how to fit it in there. So
Okay,
that's why there's a bunch of X's right now.
okay. That's good. All right, so with that said, we will open up a public hearing in consideration of ordinance 4-14-2026-10 regarding the county overlay standards, Bristol overlay standards for the county development standards. So if there's anybody in the room that would like to step up to the podium, ask questions, make comments, please do so. Okay, seeing no questions, we'll close the public hearing. And I will call for a motion. And the motion would be to adopt on first reading, amended to include the newly annexed property to the south and west of town, known as the Kaufman Farm. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Doug,
I'll second.
second by Greg. Open for discussion.
This is a motion to allow first reading adoption.
Yes.
No, it's a motion to adopt. You don't need the two steps for this.
No, but we have to vote on taking it on the first reading.
No,
We don't?
no.
This is one of there's only two exceptions to that
two
rule of
exceptions.
statute, and zoning ordinances are one of them.
So no, it's not,
Okay.
it's not a motion to suspend rules. This is a motion to
Okay,
adopt.
that's what I thought you were
To pass
suspending
No,
rules.
no,
Okay,
we're not suspending rules. We're making a motion to adopt on first reading.
okay, gotcha.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Doug D. Smith,
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Yes,
Greg Dolsky,
Yes.
and Jeff Beatty, yes. Motion carries and the ordinance is passed. Okay,
Thank you for, Angela's had a long day. She stopped in on her way through from somewhere, going somewhere, just so we can get this done tonight. So
thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Angela.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate all your hard work on this
I
too.
think it was harder to find town hall than it was to get.
I almost said it was harder to
There,
find a parking lot.
yeah, that might be a possibility.
Yeah,
So,
okay. What do you have next for us, Mike?
so we have another utility rate increase scheduled to go in take place on May 1st, is that correct? I think we want to take another look at the numbers and see if the full rate is warranted. So I'm not sure procedurally, do we need to take action tonight or Thursday night to postpone that? Baker Tilly will be ready when to present some numbers? May?
I don't know, but you gave a time frame. No, just after they got done with that reporting.
Oh, for some reason, I thought it was mid-May, but anyways. As soon as possible. On that.
Let me take a look at what we did the last time
Okay,
and probably just implement that same procedure.
same procedure, okay. So I'll tag that for you for Thursday night then, okay.
Can do.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anyone have anything for Mike?
Nope.
Okay. Kathy, what do you have for us tonight?
I have a notice to taxpayers for an additional appropriation, as it's that time where we need to pay for a fire truck.
Okay.
So we had actually done an additional appropriation last year, so we had these monies handy. We forgot to encumber them or budget for them, so they just went back into the fund, and we're going to ask to have them again.
Okay.
So I have a notice to the taxpayers that I would like permission to publish and advance to second reading. It will be ordinance, we will have two ordinance numbers 5-7-2026 on May 7th. Two different ending numbers, so this is 11. This is from fund number 4651, which is the Go Bond 2023 fund, and in the amount of $772,000.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Kathy to publish the additional appropriation?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Kathy Burke,
I'll second.
second by Doug Smith. Open for discussion. No further discussion, we'll take a vote. Doug Smith,
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Yes.
Greg Dolsky,
Yes.
and Jeff Beechey, yes.
Can I ask the guy, when's the date that they're gonna deliver that?
We're gonna go pick it up next week.
Really?
Oh.
That's soon.
That's it, it's been 40 years.
Does it always take 4 years to get a fire?
No,
Oh,
no, no,
Thank you, COVID.
yeah, thank you, COVID, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, other things, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably will have it here Tuesday, or next Tuesday.
yeah.
Nice.
Plan.
You got room in the building?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm gonna leave it sit outside. We operate.
All right. Anybody have anything else for Kathy?
No.
Okay, Alex, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Jeff. Before you this evening is Resolution 414-2026-8, which is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Bristol approving the acquisition of real property in lieu of condemnation pursuant to Indiana Code 322411 et sec. Council will recall back in February and prior, we've had discussions about acquiring the Bristol, been calling it the Bristol phone parcel, and I think that's, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's been my shorthand for it.
Molded foam products.
Some products, yeah.
Yeah, so the shorthand of Bristol Foam. And there's been, so the council's taken action to acquire that property. Initially, it was just a portion of the property in furtherance of the realignment of business route, and then through some discussions with the landowner, it became a target of the entire parcel. The council had approved a purchase price of $500,000 for that. It effectively was a negotiated purchase price under threat of condemnation. So the town complied with all of its preliminary steps in order to condemn that property. And as a result of some arm's length negotiations with the property owner, we've been able to negotiate a purchase agreement at that $500,000 amount in lieu of condemnation. This is effectively, I think this is a success of the eminent domain statute for the town to be able to acquire property that is beneficial for its public use without having to engage a court to make a determination. So call it a success of that process. So before you is a resolution that authorizes the execution of that negotiated purchase agreement that provides for standard diligence, like any other investigation into the acquisition of real estate at that $500,000 purchase price. And so with the adoption of this resolution, we'll execute the purchase, countersign the execution, the purchase agreement. The copy that's attached to the ordinance has already been signed by the landowner. We'll begin the diligence phase, and provided that there isn't some wild discovery in diligence, the town will be prepared to acquire the property in pretty short order. So that's the resolution that's before you. Happy to answer any questions about the process, the resolution, anything else.
All right.
I've got a question on this, on his seller's signature.
Mhm.
Why does it say that he's just a member? Doesn't say whether he's president or vice president, or what does that mean?
Well, so the owner entity is a limited liability company. And so, the representation he's making based upon, the representations that are spelled out in the agreement itself is that he has the authority to sign on behalf of the
Okay.
company. So as a member, depending on, it all gets into their internal governance structure, we know nothing about, which is why we asked them to make the representation, telling us that you could sign this, promise to us you can sign this. And so that's what he's done here. And so he's identified that his title is member. He could be president, he could be secretary. They may not use those titles. It may be a single member LLC. He may be the only guy there. We don't
Okay.
know, but
Okay.
he's represented that he has the authority to
It
sign
just-
this.
Looked a little strange.
It always catches my attention too, is that, but I think with the representations that he has executed here, we have there's some safety in relying upon that.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
No.
If not, first reading or is this
Just a
Just
resolution.
a resolution.
Yeah, just adopted.
just about, okay,
I make a motion, we adopt resolution 4-14-2026-8.
okay, motion by Kathy,
I'll second.
second by Doug, open for discussion. No further discussion, take a vote, Doug Smith,
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Yes.
Greg Dolsky,
Yes.
and Jeff Beach is a yes, motion carries. All right,
Thank you, Councilman. That's all I have for you.
okay, thank you, Alex. Anybody have anything for Alex?
Nope.
Okay,
We have Jeff.
So
sign
the
it.
resolution authorizes him to sign the purchase
The agreement.
Correct.
yeah,
We'll be off the races.
One down.
okay, all right,
Oh, actually, if I may,
yes,
Jeff, I just this evening, on the drive over, received what I anticipate are the final comments to the right to acquire the 14 Shore Manor property as well. So before you on Thursday will be a practically identical resolution that
okay,
will authorize the execution of a utility easement and a right of first offer and right to purchase the 14 Shore Manor property.
okay.
Two down.
All right, questions about upcoming council meetings or agenda items?
No.
Other comments or questions?
Actually, I do have one. How hard would it be to work on like a score sheet or some sort of form when anyone asks for money, like nonprofit wise, from the town? Because I mean, it just seems like it keeps getting more. We got the hub, we have Bristol Bristol on the River, Homecoming, just anyone that wants anything from the town, like even just as banners for the car shows that they ask for the town to pay for.
Yeah.
Any of that stuff, is there any way we could do a standardized form? What does the town get? Like how does this benefit the town? Just to kind of sort it out. When somebody brings a proposal forward, we have a standard format to follow.
That's a good idea.
As monies are gonna be getting tighter and tighter, it just would help us see what benefits the town.
Yeah, good idea. Start working on that.
We'll throw that
I'll
out.
send some suggestions. I just didn't know if there's anything against that or.
It's a good idea, and not only that, but, you know, the request, I mean, I've done this through Community Foundation. What you're requesting and what you're expecting to do with either a portion of it or, you know, all of it. And then we had to fill all of that out so that they knew, you know, what was going on.
Yeah, we should, and we'll identify the exact fund of where those monies will come from. We've been avoiding property taxes and income taxes, but
Yeah.
the give back fund is sort of connected to property taxes, but it's arm's length enough. I think that philosophically you'd be okay with it, but good exercise,
Yeah,
some of your ideas.
If you go to the Community Foundation website, that shows what they require. That's a good place to start.
If you think about it, it's kind of like the CF1 forms.
yeah.
Because you've got to tell us what you're gonna do if you want a tax abatement.
So would it be an application or a score sheet?
No,
Both, yes.
It's a request.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
it's a
it's-
request.
It's kind of both.
That's what I was hearing, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just, it's a set, I mean, just something that's a set parameter that everyone has to follow. It's not just, it doesn't create the appearance that we're trying to be picky or choosy. It's just what benefits the town the most with the dollars available.
Yeah.
So,
Good point, Greg.
I thought, yeah, that's a good idea.
Would, if we needed an executive session Thursday to talk about personnel matters, would you be available at 6:45?
Yeah.
If that happened, okay.
You'd have to do it after the
Tonight.
meeting.
After
What's that?
the meeting?
After the
It
meeting.
has to be 48 hours. Notice.
Oh, who's with these rules?
I tell you.
It would be, okay, it can be
Thank
after.
goodness somebody.
Could be after.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah. The wet blanket to my left.
Yeah,
Nothing taken.
all right. One of
No
our,
offense.
yeah.
No
so-
offense intended. That's what
One of
you
our
wanted to say,
employees
right?
is being courted by somebody else. And I'm not quite ready to make a recommendation, but I don't want to wait until the next meeting.
Gotcha.
It's too many weeks away.
Yeah, we do that.
Okay. So,
Okay, anything else?
that's plenty of time, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.